We're 5 children. We all grew up together, same house, same mother, same father. We're seeing each other every day for a long time, of course. But now we see each other once a year. Because all 5 of us are in different countries. When I left Nigeria for the first time in 2007, we didn't even have FaceTime. There was no WhatsApp call at the time. It was Skype.
When I was crying and crying and crying because she was like my anchor system. We were in 2 different countries, but just the fact that we were both abroad was a big connection point for us because I was in Hungary at the time and she was in the UK at the time. And I just felt like my sister is getting. I don't have anybody. In the whole of Hungary, I didn't have a single family member. No mom, no dad, no cousin, nobody. I couldn't for the life of me know how to. I couldn't remember how to buy suya. So I couldn't buy suya because I've not bought suya in 5 years. I haven't bought suya for myself. So my sister was
the one saying, whether it was 1,000 or 2,000.
You know how you
don't know the kind of meat to choose. You know, suya, you have like shaki,
tozo,
and I was like, Naita, which one do you want? And she was like, just give me any.
Do you have anything to say to the 17 years old self that moved to Sheffield with no mommy, no daddy?
So I would say,
oh yes, so his wife is very beautiful. In fact, whenever I'm talking to him, I'll say, how is that your wife? She's very beautiful.
Oh my gosh. You're making the black man blush. You're making the black man blush.
That's nice.
I can't wait for her to be on this podcast.
Boom! Welcome to First Take. This is the podcast where we talk career, relationships, and life in general, especially with Nigerians in the diaspora. Today, I am so excited to be joined by 2 special guests. This is the first on First Take podcast. We've got 2 sisters, almost 2 twins, but not twins, Omome and Nehita. Thanks, guys. See, I can see the doctor sliding in that medical knowledge there. I didn't say, by the way, we have first doctor on the episode, on the podcast as well. So, today's a day of many firsts. So, lightning round, this or that. So just a couple of questions and then Twitter or Threads. So Twitter, which is X, or Threads. Omome, are you big on Twitter or Threads?
I mean, I've never been on Threads at all. So I'll just go for Twitter because I've been there for a while. I don't tweet anymore. I go there once in a while, but I'm more of an Instagram person in general.
Yeah, I'm with you on the pictures. I agree. And Nehita?
Definitely Threads.
Right.
It's
Really?
It's a community. Yeah, Threads is like a community where you can literally learn from people. It's a very positive space, in my opinion. Let me not get
it's not toxic.
It's not toxic. For me, it hasn't been a toxic experience. It's been a good experience with Threads. Yeah.
Extreme cold, so like wintry conditions, or extreme heat. Like Nigeria, people are complaining everywhere is hot. There's no light. So which one will you choose? Omome, go first.
Extreme cold. Please miss me with the heat. I can't do it. I can't do it.
So you rather, run up your gas bills and, be all comfy under your duvet, right?
I'm not even thinking about bills. I'm just thinking about, I'm the kind of person that puts on the AC all the time anyway.
Okay.
I prefer cold.
When you were in night.
Yeah, when I was in night. Where I am now is also quite warm, so I also put on the AC quite a lot. And then I don't mind wearing warm clothes and holding like a hot water bottle. But then personally, heat for me, it's just, I know most people go for heat for sure, but yeah, me, I'm a cold person.
I find it so fascinating you said that because I'm with you, and I always felt the world was against me whenever I said it was heat, because I remember when I was in Ibadan for 7 years, I used to work for British American Tobacco, and I remember there was no light in my house. There's a period in Nigeria when it's so hot, like when the fan doesn't work. Okay, this is it.
Season. Yeah,
I've forgotten. It's such a long time ago. God has delivered me.
Yeah, it's like between December to end of March. That's when it's really hot.
But I can remember this day vividly. It was in the middle of the night. I was sweating. I took off my shirt. I opened the windows. The fan was blowing, but there was nothing. Like, I was drenched in my own sweat. And I knew it was so bad that there were some colleagues who left their family homes. Like, these were married men who I don't know whether they took their family, but they went to lodge in a hotel just so they could get aircon and, all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, this is quite extreme. Like you said, if it's cold, you could, wear layers, you could, do, all sorts, whatever, to turn up your heater. So, I think that's my own view. Nehita, are you with us, or you're going to be the lone one here?
I'll come from a medical angle.
No medical angle. No medical angle. No,
Correct.
there's hyper and hyperbole. So there's heat strokes, and then there's also like the also adverse effects get from global. Not from a medical angle. Why are we picking one or the other? Why can't we just have balance in our life? Why do we have to pick?
Ah,
Because it's
I
called
know
this
your
or that.
type. Exactly. I
This
know your
or that.
type. Later, me and
Okay.
you will fight because on this platform we don't do fence sitting. We don't do why can't I have it or
Eh,
uh,
cold.
so
If I have to
your
pick one
that's
extreme
peer
cold, extreme
pressure.
cold. It's peer pressure. It's peer pressure on
That's
this podcast.
mhm.
Mhm.
You need to hold your ground and you need to be strong. Again, on Twitter, on social media, there's this whole trend of, jackpada, people who jackpad and are returning back, either they've gotten their papers or not, or to just say, no, you know what, there's no fulfillment abroad, this, that. I wanted to get, your take on that. Are you a jackpot for life? I remember I had a friend who was like, this was when she was in Nigeria, she was like, I feel American at heart, like, I'm not, Nigeria is not meant for me type of thing. So are you a, I'll make my life abroad and settle permanently, or are you a, jackwada or, return at a certain point, or moment, let me hear your take.
I can't really say anything is for life. It has to do with what's going on in your life at that moment.
Absolutely.
And
Someone is about to sit on the fence, Sha, but go ahead.
I
Someone is
think because you
balancing.
never know. My perfect life would definitely be to live in a country that gives you the basic necessities where you and your family can thrive. And if
Mm-hmm.
that happens to be Nigeria, then I wouldn't be leaving the country because I would have lights, I'll have good roads, I would have reasonable people, I would have,
Mm-hmm.
good, and I say reasonable people because not trying to say that Nigerians are unreasonable, but there are lots of times where you even go out and, the way you're spoken to, there's a lot of anger and frustration in the economy in general. So people just don't know when they pour it on you and you're like having a conversation and they're like, oh, if you don't want to buy, you can go. It's like, let's have a
Zero customer
conversation.
service.
You know what I mean? So it's yeah, customer service. Sometimes you enter some establishments, and even just the first person that you see who is meant to be the happiest person because the person is meant to be inviting, the person is also thinking about their own problems and the person is angry and the person doesn't even know when, they pour it on you. So
Transferred aggression. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so for me, it's really about being in a country, in a place where I can get the basic necessities. That's my perfect life.
All
And
right.
the country itself doesn't matter as long as, those key things are there. And of course I have a job so that, my partner and I can work and we can
Sustenance.
provide.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. All right. All right. Thanks. Thanks. Nahita, over to you. Same question.
When I see people, for example, in this country where we are having access to healthcare, and I think of people back home that don't have access to that healthcare, and let's say they lose their babies, for example, because they didn't have the incubators and they didn't have the required, resources to live, or they lost parents because they didn't have ambulance come and pick them up from a traffic accident or something like that. My perfect life would be to live in a society that has, if possible, that kind of has it all for everybody. So
I hear you both on, what you would choose, but it looks like you're all tilting towards, good life, but no problem. So if we look at this Jackpot life now, a lot of people are saying, okay, don't migrate with small children. You lose your sense of community. So when people go into, let me use myself for example. Like I said, I used to work in a company and we had so many people jackpot at the same time to different countries, some in Canada, some in the US, some in the UK, some in Australia, just scattered across the world, family members, people in their 40s, 50s, people who even thought, this boy middle age, they had to leave. So, they left parents, they left friends. What I'm saying is, does jackpot life, do you lose something? Is there a trade-off? Is it, it looks like we're painting a picture of, go where there's infrastructure, where there's light, where there's jobs. Is there something we're losing by leaving that, community and, that raised us? So, Omome, just in closing, your thoughts.
Yes. Oh no, absolutely. To be a bit transparent, vulnerable. We're five children. We all grew up together, same house, same mother, same father. We're seeing each other every day for a long time. Of course, we went to boarding school, university, and whatnot. But now we see each other once a year. Once a year. Because all
Christmas or
five of
something.
us are in different countries. We are all in different countries. So thank God for technology because it makes it easier where you can actually see the person, on WhatsApp. But when I left Nigeria for the first time in 2007, we didn't even have, um, we
No
didn't
FaceTime.
have,
There was no Skype.
yeah, there
Yeah,
was no FaceTime, there was no WhatsApp call at the time. It was
of
Skype
course.
most
It was
most
Skype.
time. I think
Yeah,
it was
but Skype wasn't
Yahoo
even great.
calls.
It
It
wasn't great.
wasn't
Yeah.
great. It was very choppy. There was Yahoo calls. I remember the first time my mom came to visit me in school, and then she was calling her sister who lives in Germany, and she saw her, and I remember how my mom screamed like, "Oh my God, look at you! This technology is good, because she probably hasn't seen her sister in years as well. She has heard her voice, but she hasn't seen her
hmm
face. So
Phone calls were not even easy. International phone calls were
they
very,
weren't easy
very
at the time.
expensive. Yeah.
So so technology has helped a lot to that, and you can see what I'm also. So that's leading to my next point
That
because it's
that's
important,
the.
which is
hmm
when you're also moving as a family. Nigeria has its benefits as well. There's a very strong support system in Nigeria, which you don't
Absolutely.
get when you move abroad. You don't get that, especially if you move to
Absolutely.
countries that you don't even have Nigerians at all.
Even the
Childcare is so
Nigerians, they might not even be your
expensive.
friends. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah,
I
making
mean,
friends
in
in
my in
adulthood.
my
Sorry for cutting it. Making friends. My wife was saying this. Making friends as adults is tough. It's not easy, man.
exactly.
Yeah, all those
Exactly.
shared experiences.
It's really sometimes it's really difficult. In my not Japa life, but due to my work, I've worked in countries like Haiti. Haiti,
Ooh,
yes, Haiti is a country where most people hear about all the bad things. It's also great. They're very Nigerian centric as well. They play a lot of really good Nigerian music, so you do feel at
Afrobeat.
home.
Okay.
They love Afrobeat, they love Nigerian music, Nigerian movies,
Did
everything.
you see any
But
voodoo?
then yeah, well, I mean, I didn't experience any voodoo, but I've heard that it happens. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But what I'll say is, moving to a country like Haiti, where when Nigerians are talking about moving, they're talking about the US, UK, Canada. Those are the three big ones. And then you have like
hmm
European countries, Germany, or whatnot. But you don't hear
hmm
anybody say, I'm going to Haiti. So where do you
Absolutely
really
no.
find your Nigerian community in countries like that, which is an extreme level of the jackpot if you think about it, because it's not the
hmm
normal, but still. So the trade-off, yes, one, family is a big trade-off. And I worry for our children's generation because now they're all in
Mm,
different countries. How are they going to like know each other? So me and my brother, my sisters, we always talk about this. My brother has a child as well, and we're saying we need to be very intentional about our kids knowing each other, which would have been easy if we're all in the same country. But
yeah,
now we are not. So that's like it's money too. You have to spend money on trips to see each other, to make sure that they know their cousins because now they're all in different countries. So good support system, good. And then also sometimes, there's a particular types of food that you don't get when you come out of the country. That when you go
hmm
visit, you're thinking, oh, I must go to this place, or this place. I must go buy, shawarma, just something like really random like that, but it does happen. So there
delicacies.
are
Yeah,
some trade-offs, but in life, if you want to take big decisions, you always have trade-offs.
absolutely. I mean, I agree with all you. I endorse everything you've said, and for me, it's very interesting we're having this conversation because it's the same discussions I'm having in my own, household. Similar to you, was seven. I just mentioned there were, seven kids. I'm the last of
Oh,
seven, and it's scattered as well. So there's Canada. We've got three siblings there. I'm the only one in the UK. There's Nigeria. So the whole tradition of, every Christmas or Easter, it's broken. It's not that easy now, to go
and
to
you're
do the
Igbo,
same
right? So you
things.
have that
I'm
thing
able
where all of you used to go home and all that,
going
and now
to
you
the
don't get that
east.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we used to do the east, but my dad stopped a while ago. But at least we kept our own coming together because my dad is an only child, so the bond with his relatives or half siblings were not really as strong as when you have multiple siblings. So all that to say that even if we didn't do the village, to the east travel, we still try to do our own mini reunion. And you're right, that bond with the next generation, to your point, has to be very, very intentional. It was already hard enough. Let's face it, even in Nigeria, like I'm just trying to think about it with my cousins. It wasn't the greatest, like, it had to be real effort to be able to hang out with your cousins, like on my
Yeah,
maternal side now, right? So you can just imagine, how doubly hard or challenging to be
correct.
across different continents. Yeah. So it's so much to consider. Later, I would give you the last word.
In school at the time, and I was crying and crying and crying because she was like my anchor system. We were in two different countries, but just the fact that we were both abroad was a big connection point for us, because I was in Hungary at the time and she was in the UK at the time. And I just felt like my sister is
Oh.
missing. I don't have anybody. In the whole of Hungary, I didn't have a single family member, no mom, no dad, no cousin, nobody. And the next person next to me was like 3 hours flight away, or 2 hours, 30 minutes. And she was going back to Nigeria. And if we're being quite honest, that really affected our relationship, because when she went back to Nigeria, sometimes there'll be no internet to discuss important things, or she was working, or I'll be at school. So it does affect the family dynamics quite a lot, and you then have to be more intentional, like we've discussed. But also there's the cultural bit as well of coming abroad to study, and then the changes that you have to make to assimilate into your new environment. You want to get shawarma, Nigerian shawarma. I haven't even seen it in the community where I live. I think as far as I'm aware, I have to go all the way to London to find Nigerian shawarma. You know, the big things that happen, like your parents are turning another year, your parents are getting older, you're not there to be with them during that stage of life. It's a huge thing. I never met my cousin Steve. I never met him because whenever he came to Nigeria, I was in school. When he moved to the UK, I was in school. And sadly, we lost him. I never ever met him just because I wasn't even at home when he was visiting. So there's a huge part of that. And just taking to social media, if we go on Threads and X, we see people saying they left home 8, 9 years ago. They didn't come back to meet their parents after that. That was it. You know, mommy, bye bye, daddy, bye bye. That was it. So there are lots of things that we do lose in this Japa story, and I think the hope, or what we should work towards, is whilst you Japa, just keeping in contact for yourself, for your cultural identity, and also for your family and your community. I think would be my say on it. See, I'm not on the fence today. I'm not on the fence. I'm not on the fence.
I have no complaints from me, Nate. That was beautifully said.
Thank you.
And you just hit the nail on the head, on so many points. On the point of, you don't know when your last goodbye would be. You don't know what the last milestone birthday you attended, or the last time you saw each other. In fact, I remember, for me now, I don't know if this is true for you as well, every reunion, or like every wedding or whatever occasion, I really cherish it and hold it really dear, because you don't know when the next one, nothing is guaranteed pretty much. So yeah, it's you've spoken so beautifully. Thank you both. That's actually the essence of starting this podcast, because yes, there was a lot of losing a bit of yourself, I think, like you said, to try and adapt, to try and fit in,
Can I butt
yes,
in
we're in the
here?
UK. Yeah,
Can I
by all
butt in
means,
here?
by all means, go ahead. Yes,
Recently,
please. Yeah.
I couldn't for the life of me know I couldn't remember how to buy suya. So I couldn't buy suya because I've not bought suya in 5 years. I haven't bought suya for myself. So my sister
You
was
didn't know
the one
whether it
saying,
was 1,000 or 2,000.
you know how you
No,
go
no,
to
you didn't know the kind
Abuja?
of meat to
I think
choose.
you
You know,
mean
so you have like shaki,
you don't
Tozo,
have
and
tozo,
shaki,
beef.
tuzo,
And I was like,
beef.
Naita, which one do you want? And she was like, just give me anything.
you're losing touch.
I'm losing touch. And sometimes on this Japa journey, we don't realize how much we've lost touch. Unfortunately, until certain situations, you then realize, oh wow, I haven't felt this. Even small things like never taking lights, you know it,
Yeah.
but you don't even realize
I think I
that.
can miss that one. I don't mind that one going. But
I know, but it's just giving context of the things, like how
yeah.
you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah, parts of you are atrophying, and the deadness,
parts of you are
because you've never
atrophying,
used it.
and the longer you stay abroad, you don't really hold much contact. If you're not going home, frequently enough, you may get home at some point and you find out that there's an exchange, like you said, there's the atrophy and there's probably hypertrophy. I don't want to go into when you must not do this, but there is the part of you that
our learned doctor.
But there's a part of you that has shrunk and there's a part of you that's hypertrophied, and you won't realize it. Even a small thing, something like in Nigeria, when people usually say, oh, maybe you come in, you greet. It's a normal thing. You come in, you greet. Good afternoon, ma. Good afternoon, sir. It's a common thing. You do it in Nigeria, whether you do it in your native language or in English. Here, you say hello, hello, love, and you have to hold your tongue.
Hi.
Hi. You have to hold your tongue to not say that when you go home. You have to remember, I'm in Nigeria. Good afternoon, ma. Good afternoon, sir. Because that's how we were.
And
That's
We
the
were
gesticulate
that's the
as
trained.
code
well.
switching.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the code switching.
Oh no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let me just jump on that one. So
Please.
a couple of like a long time ago when I was living in the UK, more than a decade ago now.
You've lived many lives, some of them, I must say. Oh.
I,
There's
I,
UK,
I
there's
have been to
Haiti,
quite
there's
I've
US,
lived
there's Nigeria. Where
yeah.
else am I missing?
No, I think
Think
you've
that's
covered it. I think I think it's
Okay.
just those four countries. I've
Ajala.
Oh, yes. So his wife is very beautiful. In fact, whenever I'm talking to him,
um
I'll say, "How's that your wife? She's very
Oh my
beautiful."
gosh. I,
oh,
you're
Very
making a
fine,
black man
no, very
blush. You're making
fine.
a
In
black man
fact, I
blush.
can't, I
No,
oh,
can't,
that's
I
nice.
can't wait for her to be on this podcast.
absolutely. There's nothing bad in it. Wow, wow. We can go on and on and on. I can see there's so much to say, and I'm really, really grateful for your time, Mama May and Neita. I think it speaks, like I said earlier, to the objective or the aim of this conversation. I think it's much needed, really. I didn't think we should just have this silo conversations in our homes or in our friendship groups or whatever. I thought it was important to just try and piece it all together and just that validation, that feeling of okay, that sense of belonging. We might not be together physically, but at least our spirits are intertwined. So thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful for you guys. I mean, it's the first appearance, and you guys smashed it. You smashed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Quick question, because you
Absolutely.
didn't answer the question. Japa or
Okay.
Japada? To conclude, what are
Okay,
your
my
thoughts
view.
on it? Mm-hmm.
Okay, my own view. Oh, you're so kind. No one ever cares about my views all the time, but you're very intentional. You took notes, so I really appreciate that. So my
Mm-hmm.
view is it's actually quite similar to what Omome said. It's people, people want to travel for greener pastures, and I understand that, right? As much as we say we love home, we don't love it. If the conditions are not, conducive, or if no jobs, no light, no all those, healthcare. You can go down the whole list, right? And now people are complaining that the light situation is very bad, the heat that we've talked about, the government, and let's not go into politics, right? So for me, I think, and I also left the country earlier. I left when I was 17 for my undergraduate degree in Sheffield. First time out of the country, first time on a plane. My parents just, sent me alone. And I got there, and that was the first time I felt, cultural shock. Just I was out there on my own. And funny enough, I hated it. Like after 3 years, my degree, I was happy to go back to Nigeria,
So
started
you
working and
Japa
everything.
that.
But I also Japa dad,
You
that's
Japa that.
interesting, right?
Mm.
We didn't know that. Yeah. But guess what? After so I went back in 2012. I came back in 10 years later. Yeah, 2021.
Oh, you read
2022 came
Japa
for a
that.
master's. Yes, I read Jackpad. So this is my
I
second
read
missionary
Japa. That's
journey.
a good one.
Because really,
Yes,
and for
yes.
all those watching, he
Second
Japa the
missionary journey.
first time. Can I ask you a question? I know we want to round up. Can I
Yeah,
ask
go ahead.
you Japa the
Absolutely.
first time at 17, and then you spent 3 years. So let's say you're about 2021. Then you Japa, you obviously you Japa that. Then you read Japad. And I'm guessing now at an older age, time to work. What was the difference between your
Yes.
Japa at 17 and your Japa at the older age?
Fantastic question. And I think, like I alluded to, I hated the first time. So the first time I was all alone, young boy, never been out of the country, no exposure, no nothing, trying different. The people were okay, people in the north. I think you're in Sheffield, they're kind, and they are very welcoming and everything. But I just, to the point we were making, I was losing identity. That was that, no connection, no direct family. I had like aunties and uncles or like relatives. There was no sibling or nothing, right? So I felt very alone for the first time, I think, in my life. I felt like one of a number. I was in a big university with like a student population of 22,000 students, and That was when, as a young man, you start knowing that, oh, ma, nobody really cares about you like that. Like the way your family loved you was is different from the way the world would treat you, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. So I really struggled with that. So, like I said, I was happy to go back. But the second journey was different. So obviously I came second time married. So I just got married around the time when I did two moves at the same time. I reached jackpot and I got married within like a couple of months. And then I also, started a master's. And to be honest, it was a risky journey because I quit my job. I went for a master's. It wasn't like I was moving for job to job. It wasn't like a cross posting or I'd already secured a job. If I remember a lady, very close in the office, the lady, she was like, so what will you now do now? Like, that worry of, so you're resigning and you want to go and spend money on masters. What will you now do? All those worries and everything. But, thankfully, by God's grace, settled, my wife and, have a child now. So it's a different life. I guess I've created my own community to my point of I didn't have a community. So now to replace that lack of community, so it's a totally different experience, if that makes sense, total my different mindset. And I'll say
Yeah.
it's definitely more enjoyable. But I guess I'm more intentional now about trying to create community, neighbors, church, friends, this platform, so I think I'm more conscious of the fact that, okay, it's only us that have our own lived shared experience. Like, yes, there's our colleagues at work, they don't know what the other day there was something I said. They were like shy yo. So Burna Boy is big on the radio. So my boss was like, "Oh, shy, what's shy yo?" I'm like, "Shy yo," So even those who are trying to interact with the culture don't fully quite get it. So yeah, and I think maybe just to balance it, I miss the after work band. So you go to a bar and chill and just gist and all the office gossip and all. So I miss all that. Yeah, and obviously the suya and the asu and all that men there.
And shawarma. But
I can totally relate.
do you have,
Yeah.
just for like, if there's any 17 years old person that just jackpot and you feel lonely, do you have anything to say to the 17 years old self that moved to Sheffield with no mommy, no daddy? Because if I could go back, I have a lot to say to my 17 years old self. I jackpot at 17 as well.
Okay.
To a country where
Same.
no direct, no indirect family, or
Oh,
missing
so
left
all
at
of us then
17.
we have that in
We
common.
all have
Okay.
that in common.
Yeah.
And all of us
Yeah.
actually jackpotted. We all moved back, and all of us re-jackpot again.
Ooh,
Funny
so
enough.
this is a unique. I think I have my
Although
title now.
your own jackpot was very short later, to be fair,
Yes,
but
mine was 7 months.
mine was 10 years as well, I think.
10, I mean,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
10 years. Oh, it is 10 years.
Yeah, it was 10
10 years.
years because I moved back in 2013 and I jackpotted in 2023. Or rather, I jackpotted in
Interesting.
2013 and I re-jackpotted in 2023, rather.
Yeah. Very,
So,
very similar.
so do you have anything to tell the 17 years old
Yeah,
guy that
yeah.
first came and
So
hated?
I'll say, yeah. So to the younger self or to a 17-year-old, I'll say lean into because it could go two ways, right? So people come abroad for first time like, oh, let me, leave all my Nigerian roots. Let me, enjoy the pubs and, see things. And you want to see life, right? And I did that for like 3 months. And then you're like, okay, been there, done that. It got boring for me real quick. So I would say, lean into, culture, your roots. If you've got family, great. If you haven't got family, try and look for a community, classmates, a local church, a local group. Remember the reason, you made the trip, if it's studies, make sure, you study really hard and, try and get good grades. There are people who lost their way, let's face it, partying so hard and, just, they didn't know what to do with the freedom. So definitely try and be disciplined. And just, I guess that's where, people are starting to discover themselves and, make that decision. It's just, I'll say lock into, what your goals are and just, go for it. The world is your oyster. Don't shrink yourself because I think a bit of me was, hiding a bit in the corner, So I'll say, definitely be bold and, speak up and put up your hand and, ask questions and, go for that tough assignment. So yeah, so that was what I would say. I'm definitely a different man now than I was in 2009. Yeah, 2008, 2009.
Oh,
Thank
that
you
was
so much,
so
Nate. That was a
Yeah.
very
that
good
was so
question.
beautiful. Honestly, like that was really nice.
Oh,
Yeah, because I just feel like
thank
that,
you.
at
You
that
you brought that out of me.
I just feel like at that age when we just leave our parents, it's a confusing age, and it can either
Absolutely.
go right or it can either go
Peer
left. So
pressure.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure,
People,
peer pressure, societal pressure,
yeah,
everything.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
parents' pressure as
Afrobeat
well, because there's a
parties.
lot of money, yeah.
There's a
So
lot
you
of
also don't
money.
want to go there and mess up as well.
Absolutely. It's not even, for me, it wasn't even parental, it was self-pressure because like I said, I'm really being vulnerable today. So I'm last of 7. I'm the only one who studied abroad for first degree, right?
Wow.
Yes, the rest, all 6 of my older siblings, all, studied their degrees in Nigeria. And I guess being the last one, maybe they had spare cash. I always joke that they had spare cash. I was like, okay, this is the last card. Let's just, let's see if we have some loose change. But, I'm eternally grateful, to my parents for that. But yeah, it did, personally, I just felt like, okay, there's a lot riding on this. Don't mess this up.
Of
Don't,
course.
and then, I know there were relatives, there were people in the family who had gone very young, like, same age and never returned, or, their story was, just, it wasn't quite straightforward. And I know that was a fear for my parents as well. So I didn't want to disappoint them in that regard. Yeah. So it's, it was a whole lot. Was a whole lot. So
Hello,
that was why
sorry.
maybe, yeah, I think it made me maybe recoil into my shell a bit too much as well. So I wasn't, I was very conservative, very, no, let me
Yeah.
know, let me not experience this, let me not do that, so that it's not a wasted trip. But to God be the glory. I'm happy for everything. We're here now. Touch wood. It's gonna continue to be up,
Amen.
up from here.
Amen to that.
Yes.
Amen.
No, thank
You,
you,
you can, you can.
you ladies. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you can see the way me and my sister are nodding. You know the way we are nodding, yeah? As sisters, we're actually talking within each other. We're like, we can relate, we can relate. As you're saying it, we can
No,
relate.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling the connection as well. I'm not a sister, but there's a connection here. There's a kindred spirit going
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you
So
for
So,
it's
having
nice. It's
us.
nice to reflect. Thank you so much for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
It was really
oh,
fun.
thank you. All right then. We'll speak soon.